From the short tracks of the high desert to the speedways of NASCAR, Kyle Busch lives life at high speed and ahead of schedule. Through family personal drive, he became the youngest winner in NASCAR Nextel Cup history. But through it all, Kyle has struggled to create an identity of his own, more than simply Kurt's little brother. This is the story of NASCAR rising star Kyle Busch. This is NASCAR, driven to win.
This is where you got to be careful as a rookie. I mean, how good is this kid? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have what it takes to get by? Do you have the knowledge? He is closing fast now. Boy, this is a dream come true for him. White flag, boy, last time. And here they come.
Trouble here at Homestead for the championship leader, Kurt Busch.
Oh, and he loses the wheel.
Wow.
Or loses the tire.
Kurt Busch in fifth and trying to hang on to that spot. If he stays there, he wins the title.
In NASCAR's final race of the 2004 season, Kurt Busch was locked in a furious 5-car dogfight for the Nextel Cup title, a battle he eventually won.
Kurt Busch is the 2004 NASCAR Nextel Cup Series champion.
By winning a NASCAR championship at the age of 26, Kurt cast a huge shadow over little brother Kyle.
Being able to grow up with an older brother than you always have that competitive nature, and you always have that sibling rivalry, really. And to be able to go out there and try to outdo Kurt in everything that I possibly could was something that I wanted to do.
In the unlikely racing haven of Las Vegas, the Busch family created an environment for speed. Through the sacrifices of their parents, Kurt and Kyle pursued their racing dreams.
That's pretty much where everything got started, really. Kurt and myself, we worked a lot on Duneville Street there, and of course we're able to have a shop. All in all, we ended up working on race cars a bunch, and then Kurt and I would always race each other on a stopwatch to see who could beat who.
The Busch brothers have taken sibling rivalries to a new high-speed level. 7 years younger than Kurt, Kyle has always been forced to play catch-up.
He was so dead set that he could do anything Kurt could do, regardless of what the age difference was. He was going to catch up, keep up, and there was no doubt about it.
I think that's just what you have with siblings, of course, but for him and I, we had more of a friendship, really, that just kept evolving over time.
At the age of 13, Kyle followed in Kurt's footsteps to Legends cars, a powerful yet affordable form of weekend warrior racing.
Couldn't find any place in California, Arizona, Nevada that would run you as a 14-year-old.
We called Salt Lake City, and we ended up finding that racetrack where I could go up there and run my first race.
Well, I was with Kurt in the Southwest Tour, and we were in Colorado.
Mom knew nothing about this. My dad and I were planning it for a little bit.
And Kurt had gotten the pole on Southwest Tour. So I called him to let him know. I go, oh, Kurt got the pole. He's doing really good and things like that. And Tom goes, oh, well, Kyle qualified 10th. And I go, what? I go, where? I go, I thought you guys were off this weekend. Well, yeah, but we ended up going up to Salt Lake City. And I go, you did not.
Everybody saw how young I was and came up to me, asked me if it was my first race. And I said, well, yeah, it is my first race, so they made me start in the back. So I started like 25th or something like that, and I came through the field and ended up finishing 10th. And so my first ever race, I got a top 10.
He was always the younger kid, no matter what he raced. I think the first time he got in Legend car, he was 12 or 13 years old, racing against guys that were 30 years of age. I didn't see the age problem as a big factor because he had experience. And he was always fast. So anytime somebody's fast, no matter if you're 10 years old or 50 years old, you can learn something from that person.
One of the nice things about the Legend car was it was a spec series. The cars were pretty equally matched. So when it came down to what happened on the racetrack, it really showed off the driver's talent. Kyle was a natural.
When they were younger, it was hard. I mean, it was very scary and, not knowing what's, because of the experience.
Success came quickly and decisively. Under the guidance of his father, he discovered the delicate balance of pushing his car, but not too far,
They knew that if they brought it home in one piece, even if they only finished 5th or 10th, they could improve it. If they wrecked it trying to get the lead, then they might miss the next race. So that was just part of the deal when you race without a budget.
I got to thank my dad for helping me put this motor in this morning. It was kind of a late night deal last night and an early one this morning, but we got it done, and we got it done fast.
I was the main one working on my car. Dad made sure of that in order to put it back together so I wouldn't try to, not necessarily would I try to wreck again, but it would teach me a lesson of a little bit more maybe patience or something like that. Once I got into the race car and started driving, it was a little rough at the start. I ended up 10th my first race. I wrecked my second race. I only was 8th the third race, and I'm like, I'm not winning, so am I not a race car driver, or what's the problem here? I didn't know it takes time to get wins. I figured you're supposed to jump in and get wins right off the bat.
Kyle seemed to know his way not only around the racetrack, but around the race car. And if Kyle never made it as a race car driver, he was going to give Ray Evernham a run for his money as a crew chief.
I had some thoughts of which way I wanted to go, whether I wanted to work on them or drive them. You want to take like a half out of the left rear or something? Left rear don't do much.
I would get these calls from Kyle at the shop, and he says, Dad, how about if I change the right front spring to this? And I'm like, what are you trying to achieve here? And he says, well, I want the car to turn better. And I'm like, well, if you do that, you need to put something in the left rear to match that, or change the wedge, or do something to make a package out of this. And he was starting to build his own speed as a crew chief, which was kind of frightening.
And as they race off the corner, it's going to be Kyle Busch.
And as soon as I got my first win, and then I kept finishing second to Kurt a couple times, and then I won some more races. I'm like, you know what? I think I can drive them now. So I'm going to stick with this. It wasn't until 1999, March 27th, where I got my first win. And then after that, we just started clicking them off. We kept setting track record one after another, and we were pretty competitive every week. And I ended up winning the championship in '99 and 2000. By then, I was concentrating on my late model, my super late model program.
Kyle Busch is going to win this race as he comes down. Kyle Busch with the pass. Oh, wow.
After the checker flew, I was like, don't ever doubt me with one lap to go.
Kyle won anywhere he was allowed to race. Meanwhile, Kurt had arrived in NASCAR with Roush Racing, and teams were beginning to inquire about little brother. What would follow was a career leap faster than any driver before, including Kurt, and a career decision that shook the sport's two largest superpowers.
Kyle Thomas Busch. CD in my car right now is a Godsmack CD. I don't golf. You do not want to see me golf. I can hit the ball, I just don't know which way it's going to go. First job I ever had was working at a hobby shop, Hobbytown, USA, working on RC cars. Lucky number, it's number 4. 212 miles an hour. That was at Michigan Speedway in an ARCA car testing. Being able to grow up with an older brother than you always have that competitive nature, and you always have that sibling rivalry, really. To be able to go out there and try to outdo Kurt and everything that I possibly could was something that I wanted to do.
Since the age of 13, Kyle Busch had been a racer, but still a student.
The kids have to develop a college budget, dorm prices, book prices, tuitions. Then they have to counterset that with their summer earnings, mom and dad's paychecks, school loans and scholarships. So Kyle asked for some help with it, and I went back to help him on his finances. And I happened to notice that his summer earnings were $123,000. And I found that comical, since I think I made $3,000 that summer.
I was kind of questioning my mom, because she worked in a school district, about what exactly I needed to do in order to graduate a year early. I wanted to get done with school.
I made Kurt go to college. I said, you have to go to college. And then Kyle said from day one, I'm not going to college. And I go, oh, yeah, you are. And he goes, no, I'm not. I'm not going to college. Well, you didn't.
I'm in a sport that isn't school related. There's a lot of kids in football, basketball, baseball, that kind of thing. It just wasn't something that necessarily completely attracted my attention. Racing was always there for me.
He knew that he was going to get out of here because of his brother. He knew that there was an opportunity for him as well to be successful in the world of racing.
Going to school, it was a little bit different because I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't hang out with a bunch of people. Not that I was, I don't know, I guess a loner at school, but...
He was in a world of his own. He wasn't in the high school world. He was in a very adult world when he was a kid.
I had to make sure I had everything done on Thursday and, you know, through the week, so then on Friday we'd have to be out at the racetrack. And as soon as my school was over, I'd hurry up and try to get out to the racetrack as quick as I could so I wouldn't miss too much practice. And then, you know, we had a race every Friday night.
Still just a high school junior, Kyle received a call from his big brother's employer, Jack Roush. At 16 years old, he was invited to race in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
I probably didn't know I was going to race cars until my brother made it to the Truck Series. As soon as he made it there, I figured, you know what, if he can do well here, then he can probably have a shot to move up the ladder, and of course my name would get recognized. So
I got a phone call from Max Jones, who's at Roush Racing, and he said, we want to test Kyle in the truck. And I'm going, you got to be kidding me. And I said, he's only 16. He goes, yeah, I know. And he said, but we know he's got the talent. We know he's, you know, he'll do fine. What do you think? And I'm going, I don't know. I said, he's just too young. And a truck, come on, you know, I mean, that's just too big. That's just too fast.
they gave me a call and were like, hey, do you want to do any truck races this year? And it's like, well, you're not going to say no.
So you'd go to a half mile and test, and if you were good enough, they'd take it as a mile and a half at Joliet, Illinois, Chicagoland. Biff would shake the truck down, and there were two other drivers. There was three finalists. And Biffle said, I've got to make the airport. You guys are on your own. And they told Kyle to put his fire suit on, and I was just like, I'd never been so scared in my life. And he just aced it. I mean, he was just, it's no big deal.
Kyle signed on with Roush Racing in summer 2001, but the move reintroduced two familiar problems: racing in the shadow of Big Brother and questions about his age.
This young man in the 99 is the younger brother of Kurt Busch. He is Kyle Busch, who is 16 years, 3 months, and 1 day of age.
After I had my first race at IRP, where I ended up 9th, and my 6th race was going to be at California Speedway. We went there, NASCAR pulled me in a trailer and says, hey man, we're sorry, but you know, we can't let you race today. And I was like, well, why? What did I do? You know, am I too fast? Do I need to slow down? I mean, what's the problem here? And they were like, well, we've had some things come up that we weren't necessarily aware of before the weekend started with Marlboro sponsoring the race weekend there. It was a factor that a 16-year-old was participating in a tobacco-sponsored event, essentially. So I had to sit out that race, and they assured me that everything was going to be fine and they were going to get it all worked out. I was going to be able to race the following year.
I think it hit us all really pretty hard. It was pretty devastating. It was, I think it really affected him really hard. But, you know, when you're at that level, and then in order to go back down, it just, you know, he felt that everything was taken away from him, you know, because of the age.
To me nowadays, I understand a little bit better, and I think it was probably a good thing, the route that NASCAR went. And, you know, it helped me out more so than it probably could have in order to get me some more seat time in another series, to get me some extra experience before I was able to take to the upper levels.
Kyle's next career move stunned the sport. He would leave Roush Racing for rival Hendrick Motorsports, NASCAR's version of leaving the Boston Red Sox for the New York Yankees. He would race in the rugged ARCA series until he turned 18, then make his return to NASCAR.
The move from Roush to Hendrick was to get out of the shadow of my brother a little bit. It helped me in order to try to make my own person. You know, Kurt came into the sport, he was Kurt Busch. Now Kyle, Kurt's younger brother, is coming into the sport. It's like, I don't want that title on my name. It meant a lot for me to have such support behind me. I had great support from Mr. Hendrick himself, as well as Ricky.
With a liberated spirit and a racing life of his own, Kyle attacked the NASCAR Busch Series in 2004 and returned to victory lane.
Kyle Busch scores his first Busch Series win. 2 wins in the last 3 races for Kyle Busch and the Lowe's Chevrolet.
There was a lot that I learned that year in 2004 with all the fans, with the media, with everything that takes place for a full-time season in NASCAR competition. There was 35 races, I believe, that year. It was neat to be able to learn everything that I did that year with the race cars, but the biggest thing was that the challenges and everything that was outside the racing and off the racetrack.
His maturity on track was swift. His maturity off it came at a greater cost.
The FAA reported they lost contact with a Hendrick Motorsports airplane inbound for Martinsville earlier today.
In October 2004, 10 members of the Hendrick Motorsports family were killed in a plane crash, including Kyle's friend and mentor, Ricky Hendrick.
Well, the Hendrick Motorsports tragedy was definitely one of the worst things that I had had to go through my entire life.
To see my little brother struggle so bad, being so close to Ricky Hendrick, and him being a car owner for Kyle, I had to put that mentor role on and try to help him get through it, not knowing exactly what to say and what to do.
Ricky Hendrick and I were tremendously close, and it was a great relationship that we had built between each other. I'd call him up and rat him out about things and bust his butt on stuff and things like that, where he would do the same thing to me. Because I always went to Ricky for stuff. I never really went to Rick, but now I'm going to Mr. H and, calling him a lot more and talking to him.
But in the midst of pain came a moment to celebrate.
Kurt Busch is the 2004 NASCAR Nextel Cup Series champion.
Only 4 weeks after Ricky's death, Kurt was crowned as the 2004 Nextel Cup champion. For one day, there was no sibling rivalry, no tension, only a celebration shared by brothers.
I'd had enough of watching the race. After his tire fell off, I said, you know what, I'm done watching this thing. So I was fishing out the back pond. I was tossing my reel, reeling some in and stuff like that, and having a good time with that. And then all of a sudden it comes down to the last 5 laps, and then I was trying to figure out, okay, who's going to win the championship? So I made it out to the front straightaway where the victory celebration was going on for my brother for the championship, and I was actually able to I was the first one to his window, and he was unbelievable. He just couldn't believe himself that he was able to do it. Your life just kind of flashes by your eyes real quick as you're watching this. It's like, holy cow, where did we come from? We're from Las Vegas. This isn't supposed to happen to us. It was a pretty neat experience for the both of us, and we'll cherish that for a long time.
8 years after leaving Las Vegas, Kurt's big moment had arrived. Kyle's was just around the next turn. The Busch brothers have taken sibling rivalries to a new high-speed level.
New race leader is Kyle Busch. And who did he pass to get the lead?
Yeah, there he is.
It's easier passing your brother than others.
Now that they have all this experience and they are talented, I love watching them racing side by side. I know they're safe. I know they're okay. They're not next to someone else, where they might slip.
His entire life, Kyle has been pushed to one-up Kurt's amazing career timetable. He did so once again by joining the Nextel Cup Series in 2005 at the age of 19. He soon bettered Kurt again, becoming the youngest race winner in NASCAR history at 20 years and 4 months old.
The headlines will say Busch won at California.
Here it is.
But it'll be Kyle Busch.
Get it, get it, get it.
Kyle Busch wins at California. Kyle Busch is the youngest winner in the history of the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series.
My nerves are already through the roof.
You know that, right? Youngest driver that won the
Did we break it?
Yeah.
3 days?
Little did I know that the first win, I was 3 days prior to that youngest winner mark. And they told me that in Victory Lane. I'm like, no way, we beat it? That's awesome. The record stood for 52 years.
There's a lot of guys who have raced from when that record was made and to when we broke it, that we did something they didn't do. And I'm very proud of Kyle for that.
We got our first win. It was unbelievable just to have the emotions finally set in and everything else. I mean, I was so nervous at the end of that race. I couldn't even see hardly going down the straightaway, let alone through the corners. So it was pretty tough on me, and all my nerves were shot after that race. And I was just glad it was over and glad to be able to get out and, have our first win out of the way.
His quick success has led to sudden stardom. In 2005, he made an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show. His ease at the podium also led to a role as a presenter at CMT's Country Music Awards. Despite the perks, his focus remains singular: winning races.
Kyle Busch brings it off a turn 4, his second win of the season. Kyle Busch wins at Phoenix.
That's it, right there.
And that's what we did at Phoenix. We came from 2 laps down, came from adversity, came from the back. Everything didn't go our way, and we still won the race. So I'm most proud of that. The toughness that we've been trying to get to, we think we finally got there at Phoenix.
But the celebration is overshadowed by questions about a familiar and frustrating topic: Big Brother Kurt. Kurt was arrested and charged with reckless driving less than 48 hours before Kyle's win. and that is all the media wants to talk about.
I just want to say that I'm behind my brother 100%.
It is the story of Kyle Busch's racing career. Amazing success achieved in the shadow of Kurt's headlines. 2005 ended with 2 victories and yet another besting of Big Brother, winning Rookie of the Year honors, an award Kurt narrowly missed in 2001. Kyle's future is now, and now he works to ensure the future for other young Las Vegas dreamers, like Alex Haas, son of an old rival and a mirror image of a young Kyle Busch.
Being able to work with a younger driver is something that I've wanted to do, and I helped Alex for a little bit. He was racing Bandoleros. I tried to teach him some things, and when he got to Legends, I tried to help him out because I was getting into some super late models. So I tried helping him out as much as I could. He's a good kid, and I wanted to see how I could do as an owner, whether or not I was going to be a decent enough owner where I could, you know, help somebody out in their career and stuff like that. And he had a fun time with it.
Throughout his life, he's been called too young, too inexperienced. But Kyle Busch isn't on anyone's schedule but his own. A schedule that will include a NASCAR Nextel Cup Championship, a title that will hopefully happen in the next 5 years, comfortably ahead of Kurt's.
It's just all about being consistent. That's what the championship's all about. If you can make the chase, that's excellent. Then you've got a good shot at being able to win a championship, but then you've got to be extra consistent in the last 10 races, not necessarily going out for wins, but maybe top 5s in order to rack up the points for the championship.
Kyle Busch, driven to prove others wrong, driven to beat Big Brother, driven to win.